It's time for Idle Talk from King's Auto Repair in West Reading. Got a question about your vehicle? Give us a call at 610-374-8800 or 888-401-0459. So let's get started with Idle Talk from King's Auto Repair. Here's Tom and Ashley.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Idle Talk with Tom and Ashley. This
Hello.
is Ashley.
And I'm Tom.
And Tom. Oh, I have to turn
Ooh,
down.
wow.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, wow.
Man, I got to
Ooh,
turn down
getting dangerous in
the
here.
mic a little bit. There we go. So, good evening. How is everybody?
I'm wonderful.
Okay, good.
I'm not sick.
There we go. No.
Not yet. We don't know, though.
No. You're not
No,
sick.
We're
Even
healthy.
Even if you were sick, it wouldn't matter because you're young and healthy.
No.
And that's all that
Yeah.
matters.
I'm young. I wouldn't say I'm healthy.
Well, you're not immunocompromised.
No.
So, that's...
Anyway, that's not our show.
That is not our show. Absolutely not.
That's right.
I couldn't figure out my
Talk
mic
about-
wasn't working right, or my earbuds weren't working right. And
You
I
didn't plug them in all the way.
all the way plugged in.
Can't hear
I
yourself.
am so smart. Anyway, okay.
There you go.
Here we go. And that was a good beginning to the show.
Exactly.
Yay! Way to go, Ash. Anyway, so it's still light out. That makes me
That's
happy.
awesome. Yeah.
That is a fantastic
We're going to
thing
walk
that's
out of the
happening.
studio tonight, and it'll still be nice and
Yeah.
bright, and the sun will be
It
shining.
will be,
Well,
yeah, because-
it'll be cloudy, but it'll
cloudy,
still
but
be bright.
Yeah, because the sun sets like 7 o'clock tonight, which is awesome.
Question for you, though.
Yes, sir.
Were you able to change the clock on your car?
On the Mustang, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
was
you
just-
changed the one in the Fiesta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always like, whenever we had the time change,
You-
we always get a couple people stop by like, hey, I can't change the clock, you
Yeah.
know, and we always change the clock for
Well, you couldn't
for 'em.
figure out how to change the clock in the Jeep,
So-
the loaner that we have. You're like,
No.
why is this so
I didn't
difficult?
so it had one of the old style clocks in it where you had to get a pen and
Yeah.
you have to push a button in really far.
little tiny radio
little
button.
tiny button there. And I didn't have a pen that reached far enough. I actually had to get a pen with a longer tip to be able to adjust the time in it. And I was like
You were so
really
mad about it,
aggravated.
too.
But we took a car back yesterday to somebody over in, where's that, Green
Acres is the place. No,
not
Green Hills.
Acres, Green Hills.
Yeah.
Took it back over to Green Hills.
I almost got Tyler to crack. Oh, my God.
Almost.
So close. He's smiling. I can't get a full chuckle out of him, though.
Anyway, we were pulling in, and I looked down, and the clock's off. And
For a customer car.
Yep. And getting ready to drop it off, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, man, I should adjust that clock. I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to do it.
It's a little Honda Civic.
I had to pulled my cell phone out, and I Googled it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how to change the clock on this car.
And sometimes that's the easiest way to do it. I mean, because sometimes you can't even go into the owner's manual
Exactly.
because it's not in there.
Yeah, or it's like super thick and you're
Yeah.
trying to page through it and you're
Yeah.
like, where is how to change the clock?
Yeah.
You know, you do it twice a year.
Yeah.
But, you
Sometimes
don't do it often.
Sometimes you don't even do it. You just subtract an hour.
Exactly.
And then you're like, woo!
Hey, it's
my
back.
clock's the right
It's
time
right
now.
again. Exactly.
That happens sometimes.
So,
Anyway.
that's just, every year the clocks, they always get you. Mm-hmm. And we do it quite a bit, you know, it's like, but if you have an issue setting your clock, stop by the shop.
by. Yeah.
Stop by. We can help you change it.
Not a big deal.
Come fall, we can do the same thing again. And if we have to look it up, we'll probably have to look it up again in fall. 'Cause
Most likely.
Clocks are just,
The radios are always
Yeah.
unique.
Exactly. Everybody has to have a different way. Some auto update though.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing about the Fiesta is I thought mine would auto update, and we were in the car, and you're like, "Are you going to change your clock?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
because it's connected because it's connected to my phone, and I'm like, well, why would it not auto update from my phone and it doesn't? So I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just,
you would think it would
yeah.
pick it up.
Yeah.
Everything's connected. You would think it would just automatically pick it up. But, you have all this technology now. And you're like, the clock doesn't update automatically.
You're like, what is this?
Our,
why
our
does it
time
not?
our time clock at the shop does.
Yeah, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it would.
Yeah, it does.
I don't even.
The
I don't
time clock
even-
at the shop does.
I don't
but
even pay attention
but
to
the cars don't.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
Geniuses.
I don't know.
So we are taking your calls, and we're talking about anything that you want to talk about, 610-374-8800, or our 800 number, 888-401-0459. Give us a call. We can talk about anything you'd like to talk about.
So tonight, though, some topics that we saw of interest was I was paging through some news stuff, and I saw that Tesla has built their 1 millionth car.
When did they actually start producing vehicles that were vehicles that were commercial, like widely available, not just like the test ones?
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna have to Google
the data that I saw was they've been building cars for 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah,
okay.
So 2008 was when they were started building cars.
Okay.
I don't know if that's when they started selling them or if they started building them and they put the first couple test models out then.
Okay.
Or what it was.
What was the name of the first model, the one that Elon Musk put into space with a mannequin in it?
It wasn't an S. It was something else.
I can't remember.
I don't remember. But anyway.
See how well prepared we are.
Right? Well, you're asking questions that I didn't bother looking up.
Well,
so.
this is also
anyway,
the Stump Tom hour.
Well, I'm not a huge knowledge base of Teslas. I mean, we have 4 that come in the shop. Yeah. And we have to look up how to change it. Well, actually, they change the clock on their own.
On an update, yes.
Yeah, they do. But some of them, the Model 3 that we had in kicked my butt when I went to try to open it up because the Model 3 actually, which is the smaller sedan, they use your cell phone and Bluetooth to be able, as you walk up to the car, it will identify you.
Yes.
And the door handle will come out, and you'll be able to open up the door and get in. If you take it in for service, there's a little card that you have, and you have to wave it by a camera, and it reads the code.
Oh.
And I didn't know that because I thought it was like the Model S, the big one, the Model S, where if you have the card in your pocket, it will sense the card as you walk up.
Yeah.
So
but this is
I
like
was
a valet key. The equivalent of valet key.
It's essentially, So when you go to valet it, you can give this card to somebody and they are able to valet the car. So I'm standing there thinking, like, why isn't the door handle coming out on this car?
Yeah, because it has to come out to present itself. Yeah,
exactly. The door handle has to come out so you're able to open the door. And I'm like, this thing kicked my butt.
I remember what it does.
It was like, it took me like 5 minutes.
Doesn't you like push in one side and it pops out or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't allow you to, they do it totally different on the different cars.
Okay.
And the S was so much easier because you walked up to it and the handle came out. Mm-hmm. But the 3 doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I spent like 5 minutes trying to figure out
how
to open the door on this car. How do I open the door in this car?
It's the Stump Tom 5 minutes with the Tesla.
Exactly. So it's like,
poor Tommy.
So, you have all this technology and it's great when you're the driver because it's linked to your phone. Mm-hmm. You don't think about it. You walk up, now we brought it in to do a state inspection, rotate the tires. And
do we do an emissions on it? I'm just kidding.
No, because it's electric.
But sorry.
No emissions.
I go.
No emissions. It's electric.
Yes. Boogie woogie woogie.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for the electric slide.
I am having such a hard time staying on topic here. I'm sorry.
I know. You're like all over.
Oh, God.
So
it's been kind of a weird day. But
yeah, it's been an odd day everywhere.
Yeah.
I think everybody can agree this has been a non-traditional day.
Yeah.
I
mean, the sun came out. Kind of.
Yeah, the sun came out this afternoon.
Yeah.
It's the middle of March. It's really warm for the middle of March. The beginning of the week was absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody would argue with days like that.
No.
But
anyway,
so
we digress.
Anyway, so back to
you're trying
Tesla.
So hard
I know. I'm trying to stay on topic, and you're trying to lead me off into nowhere and ask me questions about stuff that
keep going.
Yeah. So. Anyway, Tesla built their millionth vehicle.
Yes.
Right. So, and it's their new Model Y, which is a mid-sized SUV.
What is a mid-sized SUV?
It'd be like
What would
your
be equivalent?
Like your Ford Escape, your Toyota RAV4,
okay, CRV,
Honda CRV.
Okay.
I think it's a Terrain.
GMC Terrain.
Yeah, GMC Terrain.
Okay.
I can't think of what the matching.
Acadia.
Yeah. No, that one's a big one.
That's the bigger one.
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head remember. But those like mid-size SUVs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they brought it out. So this made me think. The U.S. government had been giving tax credits for these cars for a bunch of years. And I'm like, if they produced 1 million cars, when did the tax credits end for these? So I started looking around, and they actually ended at the beginning of the year. So, the tax credits that were actually planned out over the time, you actually had $7,500 in tax credits, which really made the cars, the expensive Teslas that they built, a little more. I would say a little more affordable.
Yeah,
a little more palatable.
Yeah.
Still expensive.
Still very expensive, yeah.
So, but once they actually sold 200,000 cars, they then had like 6 months where they would half the amount, the $7,000 amount, down to $3,500, and it would be $3,500 for 6 months, and then they'd half it again, and it would be like that for 6 months, and then they would get rid of it altogether down to zero. So they actually produced that in that year and a half. They actually went from 200,000 to 1 million cars in that year and a half with their smaller model.
Wow.
Yeah. They kind of worked that system from the government.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we have to take a really quick break. We are taking your calls 610-374-8800, and we'll be right back.
And now let's get back to Tom and Ashley with Idle Talk from King's Auto Repair.
And we're back. Thank you for joining us. This is Ashley and Tom from Idle Talk with Tom and Ashley.
Hello.
So we were talking about emissions, and I was trying to derail Tommy but he's super pinpoint focus on the things he wants to talk about.
Yep.
So, and anyway, so the question I asked him during break is the $7,500 would go to the purchaser of the vehicle.
Exactly.
So the manufacturer is just understanding that, there would be a benefit to the purchaser.
Yep. So it was to entice the purchaser to actually buy that car because it was emerging technology. Usually emerging technology is not always the greatest.
Right. And it's more expensive.
And it's more expensive.
Honestly.
But it has a little bit of exclusivity to it.
Right.
So, you get to be the person that has the new shiny thing that's different. But, and they wanted to, the government was trying to go and get a lot more people interested in electric vehicles.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a good way to get people, especially someone who is going to buy a vehicle. They're like, oh, I want to buy an electric vehicle, but it's kind of expensive, and but that could sway someone just a little bit to just say, okay, I'll give it a try, because but that was on a purchase, not a lease, though, right?
Yeah, it was on a purchase. Yeah, okay. It was on a purchase. So, and they did that, and Tesla kind of slowly built their company up until they came out with that Model 3, which was their mid-size sedan that's a little more sized for and a little more priced with other sedans in the same area.
Yeah.
So they kind of did that and kind of held back until they hit that 200,000 car limit before they started putting these lower cost models out, because everybody would be looking at, if I could buy a Tesla Model 3 for $35,000, get a $7,500 credit back on it, they would sell a lot of threes.
Right.
But they wouldn't be able to have enough production. They wanted to have people who were going to buy the more expensive models get the bigger tax break, essentially.
Yeah. So they put out the Model and got the tax break on the more expensive model, and then put out a little bit less expensive model
and
got
then did
half the tax.
got half the tax break.
Which kind of makes sense because you don't want to. I mean,
they were trying to use it as a program to incentivize people to buy.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you also don't want to put a little incentive on a more expensive car.
Yeah,
you want
you're not going to sell as many.
Right. So you put a larger incentive on a more expensive vehicle, and it's kind of like the sliding scale of percentages.
So
Kinda how I look at it.
So the craziest thing about it is Elon Musk has been able to build a business out of making I won't say emissions free because there's still emissions in the actual building of the car, but the driving of the car is essentially emissions free.
I mean, technically, yeah. I mean, you still have to
charge it.
Where's the charging come from? And
Yep.
As my friend Ryan would say, unicorn farts. You know.
Ryan.
Love Ryan.
So anyway, the reason I wanted to bring up Tesla was there was another news article I saw earlier in the week that caught my attention. And this one actually had to do with diesel emissions. So I wanted to bring up the Tesla stuff early on, kind of talk about the people who have the zero emission driving car into the heavy polluters that got fined this week.
Exceptional polluters that got
Exactly.
fined. Yes.
So there was a TV show on the Discovery Channel that had to do with diesel trucks.
Yes, modifying diesel trucks.
Like
heavily modified diesel trucks. In not just engine, but in body and like 6 doors and that kind of crazy stuff. Giant
crazy
trucks.
stuff.
Yeah, 6x6s and that kind of thing.
So they had this show on, and they showed a lot of these vehicles that these guys had built actually had the emissions equipment removed from them. So removed.
Yeah.
And they would blow the black smoke and everything like that. And these guys got famous by they were on YouTube originally.
Okay, yeah.
They're originally on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the thing was they would build these trucks that blew all kinds of black smoke, and they would go out and find somebody driving a Prius down the road.
Right.
And just
they would dust them.
They would basically like crop dust them, make it so black that you couldn't see why you were driving. So,
which is like, I mean, come on.
Exactly. I mean, what does it do?
What do you need? What are you missing in your life that you have to do something like that?
I don't know.
I mean, that's just so insane.
And the crazy part of it is when you see a diesel truck blowing black smoke, it's not running efficiently.
Correct.
The black smoke is unburned fuel.
Unburned fuel.
Yep.
Yes.
So it is literally dollars coming out of the tailpipe.
Black smoky dollars running through the engine and coming out the tailpipe.
Exactly.
Or wherever the pipe is.
Yep. So that's all unburned fuel.
Yeah.
So you're essentially costing yourself more to go down the road.
Yeah.
And then whenever that happens, whenever you make it blow smoke. But anyway, so there was a physicians group out in Utah where these guys were at that actually went and bought one of their trucks.
Yeah.
They went and bought one of these trucks that they built, shipped it to a testing center in Colorado, and they found out that it produced, I think it was 36 times the amount of pollution than the truck was originally equipped with to put out. So out around Salt Lake City, Utah, they were saying it sits between two mountain ranges.
Yeah, like it's a little valley.
Yeah, it sits down in Salt Lake City, sits in a valley. And they have a lot of problems with smog.
Just like Los Angeles.
Yeah, like Los Angeles, because the wind doesn't clear the smoke out. So what these physicians did, they saw all these trucks driving around, blowing all kinds of black smoke, and they thought, and then they saw these guys have a TV show showing them
basically profiting off of polluting the environment.
Exactly.
And being like bullies.
Yeah. So they decided, well, we'll try to buy one of their trucks. And then they took them to court for violating the Clean Air Act, which is a federal offense. And the original lawsuit that they brought against him was for $4.4 million.
And that did not include
That was the original
plaintiff's court legal fees.
Yes.
Which would have been another 1.2, or that is $1.2 million.
Yes. So the judge actually put a judgment against them for $851,000.
It's amazing.
Plus they have to pay
the
attorney fees.
Yeah.
So for a total of $2 million.
I have to say that I am glad that this is happening, because Dieselgate was a big deal with VW.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very, very big deal, but I don't think people really stood the magnitude of what was going on with Dieselgate, because it was a cheating device.
Exactly.
It was a cheating program, whereas these guys are just like, let's see what we can do. We could put a lot of black smoke in the environment. Yeah. And, people are like, well, it doesn't affect me. It really does affect everybody.
It actually, the stuff that all this new emissions equipment is correcting on diesel trucks actually reduces acid rain. Mm-hmm. So all the stuff that they say, they're like, well, it doesn't get as good a fuel mileage. Well, it's still cleaner coming out of the tailpipe.
Right.
It doesn't contribute to acid rain, which eats paint away, which ruins a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, you're basically not contributing to this excess stuff going in.
And I think that was just what was so offensive with me. And I never watched these individuals on the television because I thought they were just kind of obnoxious to begin with. So, but I mean, and I hate to see someone's downfall like this, but they really have to, you can't just go around doing these kinds of things and be so blatantly disrespectful of the laws that are put in place. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're gonna take a really quick break. 610-374-8800. Give us a call. We are talking to you right now. So we'll be right back after these messages.
We're back with more Idle Talk with Tom and Ashley from King's Auto Repair.
And welcome back. This is Idle Talk on 8:30 a.m. WEU and 1160 WBYN.
Oh, I haven't done that, have I?
No, you haven't. But,
oh man,
no, that's all right.
I
might not say it for a couple weeks, and then we'll see if you can remember it.
Okay. So we were talking about the individuals that will remain nameless out in Utah that are blatant disregard for the environment.
Yep.
But I wanted to go back to the electric vehicles just for a minute, because I'm not exactly sure. The plug chargers that are like the charging stations that are around the people that Tesla's putting in, is that, I mean, like we had a plug in.
I don't know. I think I know what you're gonna ask me.
Are they universal?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know because I haven't gone and checked them out.
Okay, because we had a plug in Prius.
Toyota, yep.
Earlier this weekend, Dan, you were taking a closer look at the charging port.
Yes, and because I'd never seen one, and I was like, oh, let's take a closer look at this charging port so we know what we're.
Because, I mean, Nissan makes the Leaf, and Chevy makes the Volt, and, of course, Tesla, and then there's, Toyota.
I mean, this Prius, I actually shot a picture of the dashboard, 72.7 miles per gallon.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd take that all day.
All day.
Even with the gas prices coming down, I'd still take that all day.
Well, and when Dan said, 72 miles per gallon, I said, man, when I was a teenager, I drove a Rabbit diesel that was getting 50 miles per gallon, but it didn't have a turbo, and it was the slowest thing I have ever driven. It was 0 to 60, and hold on, we're getting there. Oh, not yet.
20 seconds later.
Yeah. It's like first and second gear was like 1, 2.
Yep.
If my dad's listening right now, I know he's laughing. So because he loved his Toyota Corolla. My dad had a Toyota Corolla diesel that he commuted back and forth to Philadelphia. It was a Corolla hatch wagon. I don't know if and Dan's like, oh, those are not around it very much, and I'm like, no. I think he special ordered it.
No,
so he loved that thing. That was like his pride and joy.
Those 80s diesel cars got really good fuel mileage.
They did. They really did.
They also weren't very good for the environment. But
No.
They got great fuel mileage.
They did, yeah. But I also, really quick before we go into the other items, wanted to talk about the diesel engines and diesel vehicles that don't come to the States. There are a lot in Europe and
The
England.
extremely efficient ones that they don't bring over here that get really awesome gas mileage.
Yes.
Those?
Yes.
Those right there?
Yes. What is that all about?
Okay.
Tell me,
So,
Thomas, because I don't know.
All right. So here's the whole thing with diesel in the United States. The diesel fuel in the United States is not good. So that's plain and simple. Over in Europe, the fuel has a lot more stringent regulations on it.
Okay.
And the diesel over there is a lot cleaner and a lot runs a lot better, essentially.
Runs cleaner.
It runs cleaner.
And the physicality of it is cleaner.
Yes.
Okay.
The fuel is actually cleaner than here.
Okay.
So here, instead of regulating the fuel, they regulate the emissions equipment.
Oh.
If they were to regulate the fuel, your fuel costs would go up, but you could get rid of some of this emissions equipment because they'll change the way the fuel's composed, which will help reduce the emissions.
Okay.
So over in Europe, they have a lot of cars that get like 75 miles to the gallon on diesel.
On diesel. With no turbos.
No, they have turbos.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah. They're trying to make them really small and compact.
Yeah.
You know, they're not big engines and they're not big power. Yeah, they don't have a lot of horsepower, but they have a lot of torque, which is what gets the car moving. So, being that they have a lot of torque, the car will actually pull out and start to move pretty good. But it just doesn't have a lot of horsepower, which is the power that you feel when the car revs up much higher.
Okay. Yeah. Excuse me.
So the fuel over there is much better.
Okay.
So they don't have the emissions equipment on those engines that we have on the engines here.
Okay.
Now,
I get it.
things are starting to change around the world, and they're starting to add our emissions equipment onto their cars over there. So I believe in a couple more years, we're going to start seeing those engines coming over here, but being modified a little bit to run on our fuel that isn't as good.
Well, that was kind of my next question is if we were to bring a current diesel vehicle that's in England or wherever over here, would it still be able to run the same or efficiently or at all?
Well, you can't bring one over here until it's 25 years old.
Oh.
Because it won't meet the emission standards.
Oh. Okay.
So, like, if you were to, like, some of the German car companies, like, I don't know if BMW does it, but I know Mercedes and Porsche do it, that you can buy a car and go over and pick it up at the factory, drive it through Europe, and then have it loaded on a container and shipped over here.
Volvo used to do that too.
Okay, well, so
I'm sure they all do it though.
yeah, they probably all do.
Because they want you to come and see
their
everything.
factory.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're buying I'll say elitist type of car.
Yeah.
So, so those cars that they make there will actually have American emissions equipment on it.
Okay, because it's coming over here.
Because it's coming over here.
Yeah.
So it will be made for this market.
Yeah.
So if they don't meet the emissions requirement, you cannot import them to this country.
Okay.
They have to pass emissions. They have to pass emissions here in the States to be able to be shipped here.
But technically they still would if we had the better quality.
Yes, but they
Fuel.
don't have some of the emissions equipment
Okay.
on them in Europe that
Yeah.
they have on here.
Yeah, I understand.
So
Yeah.
they can't ship them here.
I understand
Now,
what
if
you're
you were to retrofit them and have the EPA test it when you brought it over here, you would be able to import it.
Okay.
But it would have to meet those standards for that model year that the government put down.
Okay. I
So,
understand.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be done, but
Okay.
it's going to cost you even more.
It would cost more. Yeah. Okay.
So.
So, Joe has a question or has a comment about emissions and pollution. Hi, Joe.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good.
I wanted to talk about you were talking about the environment, and some of the stuff. out in Utah, they're spitting into the environment.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter is environmental studies, so we have this conversation quite a bit about, the environment, saving the earth, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest question is, if you have probably two of the biggest consuming nations in the world, China and India, which basically aren't complying to any of this.
Yes.
Aren't we just kind of spinning our wheels here in the United States? I'm not saying don't do anything about this. It's not what I'm suggesting. But if they're not complying, why are we paying the price? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I totally understand what you're saying, and that's a legitimate concern, and I've honestly thought the same thing myself. But we have to set a precedent as a large consuming country about these kinds of things, and China wants to sell to us, so they will eventually.
And the other thing with China too is they are having the emissions problems that we had during the industrial age right now.
Right.
They're having those. Yeah.
So
the cities are covered in smog.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I mean, it just seems to me that Americans are paying the price, and we probably should have for all these years of what we're doing, and that's fine. And again, my daughter's in this, so it's always a nice discussion we have. It's an intelligent discussion. That's why I'm calling you guys, because you seem like two intelligent people.
I appreciate that.
I don't have this conversation with people who aren't intelligent.
Thank you very much.
What I don't understand is this, though. You're talking about emissions, right? How come if we live in Berks County, you have to have emissions, you can pop into Schuylkill County, which you don't have to have emissions? To me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I agree. However, it's population density.
Yeah.
I understand that too, but the wind blows whatever way it's going to blow,
right?
And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To me, it's like, okay, you guys, you have to have emissions here, but you don't have emissions there. It's like, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just,
no.
I don't know. The laws seem kind of screwy, and a lot of it's head scratching. It really is to me.
I really wish it would be just Pennsylvania wide, all of Pennsylvania has to do
I totally agree. And when I heard you guys talking about the diesels over here, isn't a lot of that the reason they're not here is because those cars don't live up to the safety standards that we have here? Not so much the gas and the emissions, the safety stuff.
Is it? Okay.
Quite a bit. My understanding is it's quite a bit.
Oh, okay. Well, that may be the case because, I mean, hardly the cars come over here anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, the United States.
And also, one more thing I want to talk to you guys real quick, because I think quick and I talk quick and I try to get to talk on that.
I'm listening.
States, now they've done studies that states that don't have inspection really don't have much less fatality accident rates than we do here in Pennsylvania. Why can't we just get rid of inspection if that's the case? Is it kind of a money racket type of thing?
Have you ever driven in one of those states that doesn't have any kind of inspection and see how many dead cars are?
I've been in Florida quite a bit, and I see them make convertibles, and they didn't really put a lot of thought into it, and they didn't put cross beams underneath the car, and you have them sagging in the middle. Yeah, I've seen it.
Dead cars on the road.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is, and I get that, but I mean, inspection. I mean, I'm going to stay. I'm 55. They were doing it twice a year here back in the day, which to me was complete overkill.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I think a lot of, not saying you guys are sure you're a reputable business, but a lot of these inspection stations, you bring a woman in or a man who doesn't know a whole lot about a car. Well, you need this, you need that, you need this, you need that. Well, what's that going to cost me? That's going to cost you a couple bucks. Well, what's a couple bucks? $3,000. And all of a sudden it's like, huh?
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Well,
I don't know.
What I always say to a customer is, or what we tell a customer, are these are the things that you'll need for inspection right now. And not like, oh, you need this, you need that, you need this. No. What do I need right now? And that's really an informed consumer. Just saying like, okay, well, does this pass right now? No? Okay. Does this pass now? Yes? Okay. So, I mean, those, just asking the questions is just really important for us to just have an informed consumer come in and we want to make that information. We want to tell them, yes, this is good. Yes, this is going bad, but it still can't technically passes now. So,
I mean, don't you guys, your shops make quite a bit of money off of inspections?
Depends.
Honestly.
I mean,
because I'm going to tell you why I'm saying that. Because my brother-in-law I'm not going to say he owns part of a big tire dealership in this area, and he told me we will not go into other states that do not have inspection. I said, well, why not? He said, because we don't make any money. It's where we make all our money off inspection. So that's why I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I can't get deep into that conversation as much as I would like to. But right. I mean, we still, there's still, you bring your car in, if you're a good shop, you're going to say, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Pennsylvania state inspection, But if we do an oil change and we notice other things are wrong with your car, we're going to say, hey, you should take a look at these things. You should.
Yeah, I've had people, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right about that. I just, getting back to the original topic though, like I said, where I started out with the pollutant stuff to the environment. And believe me, I want to leave my kids and my grandkids a beautiful world like I was left. And by, again, unless we get these other countries, and that requires the politicians, I can't go to China and tell them, you know. And to me, it's like, come on, they're going to get on board or, we're not here.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like we have to, Americans are like saddling the brunt of it, I feel.
But we're also setting the precedent, too.
Is the precedent being followed, though? It's like, we're spinning our
It
wheels,
will be eventually. I believe it will be eventually.
When you say eventually, what's eventual? 10 years, 20 years, 100 years?
I think these coming generations here, your younger people, are going to set this precedent.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Because
that's hopeful.
Yeah. I believe your 20-somethings are.
They care.
They care.
A lot.
Really,
yeah, they do. They do. My daughter's 20. She does. That's why she got environmental studies, because she does care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think more than we did, unfortunately. And I think we took things for granted, which is unfortunate. But maybe it's not too late to turn this whole thing around, right?
And
thank you guys. It was wonderful speaking to you. I'll
thank you,
listen to
Joe.
because I talk too much.
Thank you, Joe. All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
We'll be right back.
We're back with more Idle Talk with Tom and Ashley from King's Auto Repair.
And we're back. Thank you for joining us. This is Ashley and Tom from Idle Talk with Tom and Ashley.
Yeah.
On 8:30 a.m. WEU and 1160 WBYN. WBYN.
There you go.
Working it out.
That's right. So Joe actually brought up some points there in his call that we were actually getting ready to hit on. So there's actually a bill that passed this past summer in the Pennsylvania Senate to change the emissions laws. It originally started out with that they wanted to get rid of emissions testing in Pennsylvania. So, and what these lawmakers didn't realize when they started this was this bill, if they were to get rid of emissions testing, the federal government will pull road tax dollars that they give Pennsylvania.
Oops.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have to actually, even if they were to vote to get rid of it, they might not even be able to get rid of it. They might be able to change it in a couple counties, but it depends on population density.
Yeah, and this is what I'm looking at right now. I found one of the articles, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, they wanted to change. So I guess the revised bill, what started out to get rid of emissions testing altogether, has now changed to try to remove a couple counties from it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Berks County is not one, neither is Lancaster. They're mostly counties outlying around Pittsburgh. And
okay.
Yeah, around Pittsburgh, and I think up around like Wilkes-Barre area.
Okay. Well, it says this emissions tests are required in 25 of Pennsylvania's 67 counties based on population and proximity to major metro areas like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Yeah. So, and it's kind of a misconception that because you live in one of these non-emission counties that you don't get an emissions inspection.
Right.
You are actually getting one. It's a visual inspection. And it actually gets done with the safety inspection. So when they changed the laws and they added some of these northern tier counties in, what they call them, like the lower density, not like around us, but I think like Coming County.
Okay, yeah.
And some of the others like around like, mid-north, where your Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and all the, around there. They actually have a little bit different program than here. Up there, when they hook it to a machine, they test the gas cap to see if the gas cap's good, and they do a visual inspection.
Okay.
Which is what we do down here on a 95, our older car.
Okay.
Now, if you're in a non-emissions county, what they do during the inspection, there's a different inspection sheet that has a couple extra places you have to fill out when you inspect the car. That you have to sign off that this car has its emissions equipment on it.
That it has not been deleted.
That it has not been tampered with.
It still has a catalytic converter. Its catalytic converter is still working.
Well, it has to appear. It has to be
appear,
there, and
yes.
it has to appear as though it is working.
Okay.
So if there's a hose that's attached to it for like a vacuum line to actuate a solenoid, it must be attached. If it is off, that is a failure.
Okay.
That would be tampering with it. So as long as it's hooked up and it looks and appears to work, it passes.
Yeah. Okay.
So on those older cars. Now the newer cars, when they standardized all the computers in them, that you got your standard codes when you would plug into the port, those cars in like our county, the state actually mandates a computer that the shop has to buy, and we actually are the facilitator to hook this up. So we test the gas cap, put the gas cap on the gas cap tester, and then we actually hook the emissions computer into the computer of your car. And the state runs a program to check and see if they have these things called monitors done, which is basically the computer checks that emissions equipment and says it's okay.
Right.
If all the monitors are what we call set and they all passed and there's no codes in the computer, the car will pass emissions. But if there's a code in it or not all the monitors are set, which there can be one monitor not set, like somebody cleared it out, drove it a little bit, and then tried to bring it in for emissions testing.
Right.
And not all the monitors would set, it would not be ready for testing.
Right. And that can happen if you change the battery too. If you don't put a
We see that happen a lot.
yeah. And so the
Battery goes dead like
Yeah.
2 weeks before you go to get it emissions inspected,
Yeah.
and it still the computer hasn't tested everything.
Yeah. And that's not a malicious thing at all. That's just like you didn't put a saver on the battery, so it just
And the computer loses everything.
yeah. And there's different ways. Like I know how to drive most vehicles to get the monitors to set. Like I'm pretty good at that because I've been doing it for a long time.
We'll do a repair, and then we'll want to see, hey, is everything right? Will the computer pass it? So we send Ashley out to drive them around to make sure everything works like it should and it doesn't set a code again.
And I have a little route that usually
Exactly.
works. So
And it works like a charm usually when Ashley does it.
Yeah.
So, but, just there might be some changes coming down the road with the emissions inspection in PA.
And this bill that I'm looking at, or the article that I'm looking at, says that there is a long kind of road, if you will, because it has to pass the House, and then it has to go to the DEP, and then it has to. I mean, there's a bunch of things that has to happen.
Yeah, like I said, even if the Pennsylvania House, the House and the Senate and the governor all signed it, but the federal EPA kiboshes it.
Yeah.
It's a no-go.
Yeah. So so it can be.
But you would end up losing all these federal road tax dollars, essentially.
Yeah, and actually, the road tax dollars started. That's kind of another whole nother story about how the drinking age is 21, because that was one of the reasons I know in Texas. The drinking age used to be 18 back in I guess it would be the
not
70s.
Not that long ago.
Yeah. And Texas didn't want to change the drinking age in their state to 21, and the government said, well, then you don't get any tax dollars. And they said, okay, never mind. It'll be 21. We're good. Yeah. So that really is a really important dollar aspect that comes into every state every year. So I don't think that could be kind of foregone, if you will, because it's incredibly important. I mean, you can't get all of your state road revenue from gas tax and vehicle renewals. And
the federal government has a tax on gasoline. So, if we're paying it out but not getting any back,
right.
That's it's kind of
not the way the tax system is really kind of set up.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of want that money back. If PA residents are paying into it, you kind of want that money to come back.
Absolutely.
So it's you got to play by their rules.
Yeah. And sometimes the rules are incredibly frustrating, but it does. I mean, honestly, people say, why do we need this? Why do we need that? It does make the world a better place. And the gentleman that called in, Joe, he's like, why do we need to have, safety inspections. And, it's really for this, it's not, I've said this before, it's not necessarily for your safety, it's for the safety of people around you.
Yeah.
Because things can fall off your car and hurt other people.
Yeah. And we had a caller a couple of weeks back who said, which I agreed with, had the plumbing business that said, when he does plumbing, somebody comes out and inspects it, make sure it was done right.
Right.
He goes, you're working on your car in the driveway.
Right.
You don't know who that guy is next to you.
Yeah.
Could he put it on?
Yeah. Did he put the drain plug in all the way so it's not making an oil slick?
Yeah.
Did he tighten down the wheels all the way? So,
It's not making an oil slick going down the road so the guy in the motorcycle riding behind you doesn't slide off and go crashing because of the oil coming out.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
I mean, to me, that's the reason why safety inspections are important. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's a money grab. It's this, it's that. No. It's a
safe, reliable car.
It's a safe, reliable car for you and the people around you on the road.
Yeah. So, but which leads me into another thing I did the other day. Mm-hmm. So Ashley and I constantly go through cars, but, it's a bad habit.
It's a bad
habit.
Yeah.
It's a bad habit. But, we actually had an older Land Cruiser that one of our customers really, really wanted. Mm-hmm. So we had traded him for this Toyota Sequoia, which we knew needed a whole bunch of work.
Right.
So I thought, you know what? I know this thing needs a lot of work, and we do our digital health check on cars. So, we take a lot of pictures, and we're able to email them or send them to your phone through text, and you can actually see what we see, and includes videos too of why you may want to consider repairing it. Some of the stuff we have it labeled differently of things that are pretty important, like are going to be like dangerous on the road. We have things that are labeled for Pennsylvania State Inspection. If it fails Pennsylvania State Inspection, it puts it up in a different category that, hey, this doesn't pass Pennsylvania State Inspection.
And just as a caveat there, even if you're not in for a Pennsylvania State Inspection, just for an oil change or anything like that, we'll say if this car were to go through inspection today, this would fail.
Exactly.
Not saying that you have to fix it at that moment, but it would fail at this moment.
Yeah, it wouldn't pass today.
Right.
So, and the report prints out and it'll tell you that. It'll tell you, future repairs you might want to consider down the road. And we also have a separate section which is just recommended maintenance, when we do like a fluid check or something like that. So it breaks it out really nice. And I did one of these reports and I actually put it up on our Facebook page. So if you go over to the King's Auto Repair Facebook page, it's currently the top post there, and you click on the link, you can see what one of these reports looks like. Now, I will tell you, I'm feeling a little ashamed about that truck, because I went over what we're going to end up doing to that truck, and we're going to do a lot to it. We knew it was due. It's due for a timing belt by
mileage. But it's 187,000 on it, or 192. Yeah.
192,000.
So, I mean, to me, that's not, the gentleman that we bought it from really loved that vehicle and he did take good care of it as much. And that's kind of a long story, but he stopped driving it for different reasons.
For work reasons.
Yeah. And so, he really did, but he did take good care of it.
Took care of it, and he's like, you know what, it's coming due for a whole lot of services.
Right.
And he was looking at our Land Cruiser, and he's like, I really would like that. Right. So we're like, okay, let's do a deal. Let's make a deal.
Yeah.
So, but, it was really, the report's really interesting. So if you have some time, go over to the King's Auto Repair Facebook page and click the link and take a look at it. It is essentially a live report that we do, that we have. And if you have any comments, questions, or tell us something that we can do better, leave a comment.
Yeah, leave a comment for
sure.
Leave
a comment.
Every car that comes
know.
through gets one of those.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a brand new 2019 Fiat, 18 Fiat, which is what we saw like on Tuesday.
Yep.
It still gets one.
Yep.
Because you can know that we put down the tire specs, we put down the brake specs, topped off the everything.
Yep. The pictures of what we did, what we checked. what we see. So, on a newer car, it's really, you'll get pictures of everything looks like brand new.
Everything's great.
Yeah, everything's great, Yeah. And the picture of the air filter's there, so how dirty the air filter is.
Right. Or not dirty.
So
if
you don't come back to us the next time, you're going to be like, hold on. You get your oil change somewhere else, and they're like, your air filter's really dirty. And you're like, hold on, I got this picture of it the last time.
Well, that is our show tonight. Next week, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I mean, we could continue. I don't know. We always say that, like, what are we going to talk about next week? I don't know.
So we'll see.
Yeah. So, anyway, have a lovely, lovely, lovely weekend, and we will see you next week. And thank you very much.
Yep.
Good night.
You.